once said, you sing a song to 85,000 people and they'll sing it back for 85,000 different reasons. Good morning, everyone. I'm Aarzu Ramawat, and music has impacted me in ways I cannot begin to explain, but maybe I can show you instead. How did that make you feel? Exactly. If art is how we decorate space, then music is how we decorate time. But it doesn't just fill silence, it pulls things out of us we didn't even know were there in the first place. And that's where I want to begin today. Not just with music, but with emotion, because as a teenager, our emotions are all over the place. Teenage life is a mess, a confusing, exhilarating, chaotic, and emotional mess. If you're too expressive, you're seeking attention. If you're too kind, you're an emotional doormat. If you're too emotional, you're a crybaby. And if you're doing the opposite, you're cold. There is so much self-doubt within us that we become shapeshifters, different versions of ourselves according to who we're around. And the scariest part, it starts to feel normal. When I was in the 10th grade, I deleted Instagram. And sure, there were times during conversations where I felt like I missed 5 seasons of some irrelevant show, but it was worth it. I was so blissfully unaware of the social dynamics online. However, when I recently rejoined, I found that things were very different. Sure, people were being themselves, but it felt too crafted and too rehearsed. And I honestly get where they're coming from, because there are times where I didn't feel seen or heard either. So I fit myself into places I didn't belong. And when I found that I just felt helpless and trapped and people couldn't get me, playlists did. And there's a reason for that, a real neuroscientific reason. Research from the University of Central Florida shows that music actually reaches the emotional, memory, and motor parts of your brain simultaneously, including areas that language itself cannot reach. That's why we feel like certain artists wrote songs for us even though they don't know we exist. Words help us express, but music helps us feel. Yet another study done in Frontiers of Psychology showed that music reduces the symptoms of depression in over 61% of teenagers. And yet another study from the American Music Therapy Association found that when therapy was music-based instead of talk-based, 75% of teenagers felt better after it. When it comes to expressing ourselves online, I'm sure all of us have heard of the trend where we hesitate to post something in 2025 and we didn't hesitate to post something in 2018. And it's true. That hesitation, it doesn't come from the lack of cringy filters or the horrible lip syncing. It comes from our need of validation and acceptance online that we still crave. When we're talking about ChatGPT, our conversations began with how do I score more marks in boards, and now it's conversations like how do I stop feeling this way about myself. It's clear, we're desperate for expressing ourselves, but we don't feel like we have the tools to do so. And that's where music comes in. Now that we've gone over how it impacts us, let's talk about how to incorporate it into our lives. Start small. Make playlists that match your mood. Send songs to those friends who would never open up emotionally, but would always resonate to music. Because don't forget, it's something that even language cannot reach sometimes. Science says that songs that start with 60 to 80 beats per minute can actually reduce your stress levels and make you feel better. So when you wake up to a calming track instead of doom scrolling on Instagram, you're basically practicing emotional self-regulation. Schools love talking about emotional health, but what if we actually felt something instead of filling worksheets? What if we had music therapy sessions instead? Because sometimes sitting in a room and talking just isn't enough. And above all, listen with intent, especially to what I'm about to play next. despite the obvious. Can anyone tell me which movie that was from? Thank you. Okay, so in Interstellar, Cooper once said that it's like we've forgotten who we are. But I think it's things like music that help us remember who we are. And I might be going off script here completely, but it doesn't need to be music. It can be anything that makes you feel like yourself. Because really, who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when you're living instead of existing? Who are you when you're living for yourself instead of for a camera lens? There's a quote in Brooklyn Nine-Nine that says, every time someone speaks up and says who they are, the world becomes a better, more interesting place. So tonight, I want everyone to try something, and no, I'm not gonna ask you to delete your Instagram, but play your favorite song and sit with it. Not for the content, not for the aesthetic, not to post about it later, but just for yourself. Because teenage life is loud, but music made it make sense. And now, for the words I've longed to say after every piece of mediocre advice I've given and every rant I've gone on, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.